Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast, Advanced English Listening Practice topic name is New Year 2026, New Goals.
We are standing right on the edge of something, really unique, the start of a brand new year, 2026.
There's this incredible collective energy that you feel in December, isn't there? It's like this collective inhale where we all just pause for a second.
We do. We look around maybe at the last of the holiday lights, and there's just this powerful, almost thrilling sense of what's possible.
And it's more than just the calendar flipping a page, right?
Oh, absolutely. What's so fascinating is that it's this universally recognized moment. We see 2026 not just as, the next 365 days, but as a completely blank canvas.
Fresh start.
A total fresh start. It doesn't matter what happened last year, the wins, the unexpected challenges, the quiet struggles. This coming year is entirely yours to write.
And that's exactly why we're here today. Our deep dive is for you, the listener, standing right on that threshold. We're getting into practical strategies for achieving long-term goals and, maybe more importantly, how to cultivate that deep motivation that actually lasts.
Because that's the real challenge.
It is. So many of us start the new year with all this enthusiasm, but then that momentum, it just struggles to make it past, late January?
If that. So today, we're moving past the wish list mentality. We want to explore how you can start 2026 with real purpose and passion, the kind of genuine, resilient motivation that turns a vague resolution into a structured, lasting reality.
So we're talking actionable insights, a real roadmap.
A reality-based personal roadmap, so you can let go of that guilt from past attempts and just focus on genuine, sustainable growth.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Before we can even think about sprinting into 2026, we have to pause and, look back at 2025.
And this is the step everyone skips.
It's so true. The material we looked at really emphasizes that lasting motivation has to be rooted in self-awareness, not guilt, not obligation. So this first step is what they call the art of honest self-inventory.
It's the most skipped step, and it's why so many resolutions fail before they even start. People jump right to the prescription, I'm going to do this, without ever diagnosing what happened last year.
Right, without understanding the terrain.
Exactly, and we need to make a really sharp distinction here. The usual approach is harsh self-criticism, which is it's completely counterproductive.
It poisons the well from the start.
It does. The path we're talking about is one of kind curiosity. You're not there to tally up your successes and failures. You're there to investigate your own patterns, to understand the story you've been telling yourself.
That distinction, kind curiosity versus the harsh inner critic, that's everything. If you go into this review like a hostile judge, you just invite shame. And shame makes you want to hide, not try harder.
Mm-hmm. But if you approach it like a compassionate scientist or maybe an objective historian, you're just gathering data. And data, unlike judgment, is incredibly useful.
So how do we actually do that? How do we get into that compassionate mindset?
With structure. The material gives us some really great reflection prompts to guide this process. You start simple. What did you set out to accomplish a year ago? Was it a big career goal, something in a relationship, a personal habit?
And then you get more specific. Which of those goals did you actually meet? And which ones got postponed or just abandoned?
And then the important part, what were the lessons? Sometimes they're gentle lessons, sometimes they're not so gentle. Where did life give you some unexpected feedback?
What did that feedback tell you about your priorities, your energy levels, maybe the support systems you thought you had?
Then the prompts push you into gratitude, which is so essential for building that resilient foundation. What moments from 2025 are you genuinely grateful for? And not just the big, obvious things.
The small stuff.
The small stuff. When did you feel most alive or engaged or proud? By focusing on those moments, you start to identify the things that naturally fuel you.
I really like those questions because they shift the focus away from what you lack and toward acknowledging the strengths you already have. You have to actively look for where your resilience showed up during setbacks.
Yes.
It forces you to recognize that, hey, you survived 2025. You handled the curveballs, the chaos. You got yourself to this exact moment. And that deep internal knowledge, that self-efficacy, that's the foundation for any plan for 2026.
And all of this has to lead to genuine acceptance. Acceptance of your patterns, of your bandwidth, and of the fact that you are capable of change. That acceptance, without all the critical judgment, that's the fuel we're looking for.
Which brings us right to the biggest hurdle we all face, the resolution trap. This is where we have to confront the hard truth about why the old way of doing things just doesn't work.
We have to talk about the elephant in the room. The statistics are They're pretty sobering. They really serve as a stark reminder that the whole January 1st new me approach is just fundamentally broken for most people.
What's the number?
The research suggests that only about 8% of people actually achieve their New Year's resolutions with any kind of long-term success.
8%.
8%.
And that number isn't meant to be discouraging. It should be instructive. It's a huge statement about the method, not the people. If 92% of attempts are failing, the problem isn't us. It's the approach we're taking.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
We're often setting goals based on, superficial desire, or we're comparing ourselves to someone on social media, or we feel some kind of societal pressure. We're not building that robust internal structure needed for long-term commitment.
So if we accept that failure rate, we have to look at why it happens. What's the mechanism of failure here?
It's almost always emotional self-sabotage. It goes right back to that step we just talked about, the one everyone skips. Guilt, shame, self-criticism, these are destructive forces. They literally strangle your motivation.
So if you start a new goal, already carrying the baggage of last year's so-called failures, your motivation tank isn't just empty.
It's actively leaking.
So the big takeaway here is the absolute necessity of letting go of guilt. You have to forgive yourself for missteps. Growth is never, ever driven by beating yourself up. It's fueled by compassion and just being willing to try again tomorrow.
And realizing that the journey itself, with all its pivots and detours and stops and starts, that's already a win. Just the intention to grow is a win.
The ability to restart a habit from a place of kindness rather than the self-loathing, that seems like the single greatest predictor of success.
It might just be. If you can adopt the mindset that a lapse in your routine is just an inevitable part of being human and not some final devastating failure, you're free to restart immediately. You don't have that debilitating emotional baggage that causes that 92% failure rate.
That's a powerful shift. It's not about performance. It's about persistence.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've built this resilient, guilt-free foundation. We've taken an honest look at our past patterns. Now we can start looking forward with some real clarity. This next part is all about structuring desire. We're moving beyond those vague wishes to aligning our goals with what we genuinely want.
And that alignment piece, that's the energy source. Resolutions often feel so lifeless because they're either too vague, like get in shape, or they're just completely uninspiring, like save more money.
They're restrictive. They feel like a chore.
They do. For this to last, the motivation has to come from inside, from your core values. We have to identify goals that actually ignite the spirit. It's time to ask yourself, what would truly thrill you? What's that dream that keeps whispering to you even when life is loud and busy?
I love that phrase, the dream that keeps whispering.
We should be asking ourselves questions that challenge our own limits. Like, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you dare to try? Posing the question that way. It makes your mind suspend all those self-imposed limits for a second. It gets you closer to what you genuinely desire, not what you feel obligated to do.
And you should write those things down. Give them some weight.
Definitely. And these thrilling goals, they shouldn't just be about work or money. The examples we saw cover the whole spectrum of human desire. Starting a big creative project, like writing a book or launching a podcast. Or maybe it's about cultivating deeper, more intentional relationships.
With your partner, your kids, your friends, or even with yourself.
Or maybe it's about prioritizing your health in a way that feels joyful and sustainable, not punitive. Or finally learning that new skill or planning that bucket list trip. The point is, the goal has to resonate so deeply that the daily work feels like an authentic expression of who you are, not just another task on a to-do list.
So once we've captured that thrilling whisper, that core desire, we have to make it real. We have to make it actionable. And this is where the SMART framework comes in. It turns those dreams into structured, accountable goals.
Right. And we can assume most listeners know the acronym specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. But the real deep dive here is in the application, because that's where the structure really holds up. Structure supports motivation. Without it, desire just evaporates into wishful thinking.
Let's zero in on two of those that often get misapplied. Achievable and relevant. People will set goals that are totally achievable, but completely irrelevant to what they actually want.
That's a huge one. For example, learning some complex piece of software might be achievable, but if it doesn't feed your core desire for creativity or connection, the motivation will it'll die on the vine.
Relevance is the emotional anchor.
It is. And on the other side, people often confuse achievable with easy. An achievable goal is one that's within your power and resources, but it should still challenge you. It should stretch you enough to grow, but not so much that you burn out in the first week.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Let's transform a vague wish into a real SMART goal. The classic vague wish, I want to get in shape.
Almost useless, right? There's no action plan, no urgency.
So what's the SMART version?
A SMART goal transforms that wish into an executable plan, usually by linking it to a relevant purpose. So instead of get in shape, it becomes something specific and time-bound, like I will run a 5K in my local park by June, or I will practice yoga 3 times a week until September.
And here's the key insight that I think fuels this whole system. The satisfaction you get from achieving those small wins. That's crucial. It continuously builds self-trust. And self-trust is the engine of ongoing motivation.
Self-trust is everything in the long game.
It is. Every time you hit a small milestone, you complete that run, you finish that yoga class, you're proving to yourself that you're reliable, you're capable.
And if you keep setting these huge, vague goals that you can't possibly meet, you're teaching your subconscious the opposite. You're teaching it that you can't be relied on. But setting smart, achievable milestones, that generates a constant flow of positive feedback. It reinforces the identity shift we're going to talk about next.
Which brings us to building the actual roadmap,
Yeah.
the transition from dreaming to planning.
Yeah.
This is where so many people get stuck. The ultimate goal just feels overwhelmingly big.
They look at the mountain peak and decide it's easier to just stay in the valley.
Right. So what's the counter strategy?
It's elegant and simple. Start small, aim high. Your big ambitions are valid, but you have to protect your mental and emotional energy. So you have to start small. Almost. Comically small.
What does that actually look like in practice?
First, you have to be disciplined with your focus. Choose only 1 or 2 key areas to really work on first. Don't try to overhaul your entire life on January 1st. It's a recipe for disaster.
And second,
And this is the most important part, break that one goal down into tiny daily actions. The kind of actions that feel almost too easy to skip.
I love that phrase, almost too easy to skip. That's all about reducing friction. So if your goal is to write a book, the daily action isn't write a chapter.
No, that's way too big. That invites resistance. The daily action is write for 15 minutes right after my morning coffee, or open the document and write 100 words. It has to be so small that the psychological barrier to starting is basically 0. You want to win that moment of decision.
And you need a system to track this, right? To make it visible.
Yes, a habit tracker, a calendar, even a simple checklist. If you can physically see the chain of consistency you're building, you create this internal pressure not to break the chain. Momentum is such a powerful force, and it's built through relentless consistency, not these grand, heroic gestures that only last for a week.
So you don't need a home run every day.
You just need to show up at the plate.
Okay, the long game. It requires more than just a good plan. It requires foresight. We have the roadmap, but we know it's going to collide with reality. So this next part is about recognizing the limits of willpower and using identity and community to sustain change.
Let's just be honest here. Relying only on willpower is a fundamentally flawed strategy. We all start the year with what feels like this bottomless well of determination, but willpower is a finite resource.
It's like a battery.
It is. It runs out. Usually around the time the holiday sugar crash ends or when the first unexpected crisis hits at work. A smart roadmap involves actively planning for life's spectacular curveballs.
So this is like doing a pre-mortem on your goals. You don't just plan for the ideal day. You brainstorm the challenges and the solutions ahead of time. What happens when you're exhausted or sick or traveling or dealing with a family issue? Your system has to be designed to survive that shock.
And you need concrete, low-friction solutions ready to go. For example, if you know you struggle with morning workouts because of the effort it takes to get ready, the solution isn't just try harder.
That never works.
It's a structural solution. Pre-pack your gym bag and put it by the door, maybe even sleep in your workout clothes. You're removing the friction so that going to the gym becomes the easiest choice you can make in that moment.
Or if distraction is derailing your writing goal, the solution isn't beating yourself up for a lack of focus. It's environmental control. You schedule non-negotiable, device-free writing sessions. You're building a fortress against distraction for when your willpower is low.
And there's a really important pro tip here for long-term planning. You have to incorporate restart points.
What are those?
They're not failure points. They're intentionally scheduled, regular check-ins, maybe every Sunday night or the first of the month, where you review your progress and have a guilt-free reset.
So that promotes adaptability. Instead of feeling like the whole plan has failed because you got sick for 2 weeks.
You just see it as a temporary blip. You know you'll address it at your next restart point. It means you treat your goals as living, adaptable things, not these rigid rules that shatter the second they're challenged.
It's like treating your goal as a hypothesis you're testing. A failure is just data.
It is. If you miss 3 days, you don't quit. You go to your restart point and you ask, okay, why did this happen? Was the daily action too big? Was the timing wrong? And you iterate, you adjust.
Let's pivot to what might be the deepest lever for change here: the power of identity-based habits. The research seemed to be really clear that lasting change comes from habits, and habits are rooted in your identity. It's a fundamental shift in how you see yourself.
This goes so far beyond just behavior modification. You stop trying to do things and you start trying to be someone. So instead of the surface level goal, I want to run more, the internal framing shifts to something like, I am a person who values movement and physical health.
That subtle shift changes the entire motivational game. Every small action you take, putting on your running shoes, choosing the healthier lunch, going to bed on time, it becomes a vote for that new identity.
It reinforces who you're actively becoming. You're not just chasing some external result anymore. You're confirming a core belief about yourself in the present moment. That is incredibly powerful for motivation.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't there a risk of this just being fake it till you make it? What if you don't actually believe on day one that you're a person who values movement? How do you bridge that belief gap?
That's a great question. The insight here is that the belief is built through action, not just through affirmations. You don't have to believe it 100% on day one. You just have to take the first tiny intentional action.
Each action is a piece of evidence.
Exactly. If you want to be a writer, you write 100 words. Now you have evidence. You are, in fact, a person who writes. The belief follows the evidence, not the other way around.
So the actionable question you can ask yourself is, what would someone who has already achieved this goal do today?
Yes. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, what does that person do? They show up, they make the call, they do the research. You start to embody the goal rather than just chasing it from a distance.
And finally, we have to talk about community. Motivation almost never succeeds in a vacuum. You have to find your tribe. The data is so strong on this. Community and accountability are some of the best predictors of lasting change.
Motivation is genuinely contagious, and isolation is its enemy. When you share your goals, either publicly or with a trusted circle, you tap into a really powerful social dynamic.
So this isn't about bragging. It's about sharing your intentions with family or friends, joining a group with similar interests, or finding a mentor.
It's about building a resilient support network that exists outside of your own very finite willpower.
Let's break down the mechanics of that. Why does external accountability work so well?
There are a few things at play. First, it's a commitment device. Just knowing you have to report back to someone makes it harder to quit. Second, there's informational support. When you struggle, other people who've been there can give you practical advice or encouragement.
And when you succeed?
You share that positive energy. You become part of their support system. It transforms the journey from this solitary, grinding effort into a shared, positive collaboration.
We've talked a lot about the effort and the persistence required, but we have to talk about the fuel. A huge part of sustained motivation is learning how to effectively celebrate the milestones. You can't just wait for the distant finish line to feel good about what you're doing.
Motivation grows so much faster when you give yourself recognition and rewards along the way. If your big goal is going to take a whole year, you need 52 weeks of micro rewards to sustain the energy to get there. Strategic self-reward is essential fuel, not an optional bonus.
So what are some good examples of celebration? The critique is always that we're not talking about self-sabotaging rewards, right? Like, you don't celebrate a week of healthy eating with a giant pizza that undoes all your progress.
No, the rewards have to be aligned with your core goal and your identity. If your goal is professional growth, maybe the reward is treating yourself to a really nice coffee or a new notebook. If the goal is writing, maybe it's an hour spent just reading for pleasure. If the goal is physical health, it could be a restorative massage or a long, guilt-free walk in nature.
This leads to a really critical distinction, especially in today's hustle culture. Reflection, reward, and rest are not deviations from your progress. The material we looked at is emphatic about this. They're essential fuel for perseverance.
Rest is a radical act, and it's the necessary action that lets you refill that depleted motivational well so you have the cognitive energy to show up again the next day.
Okay, so now we have to address the toughest part of the long game. Life happens. Even with the best plans, setbacks are inevitable. A job loss, a health scare, a family emergency. And in those moments, motivation can feel like it just evaporates.
This is the ultimate stress test for any plan. How do you keep motivation from crumbling when the bottom drops out? It requires the active cultivation of deep resilience. That's the ability to move through a struggle with grace and without a lot of self-blame.
So what's the first step when you're faltering?
You have to pause immediately and reflect on the obstacle objectively. No impulsive reactions, no self-criticism. You just have to ask yourself, what specifically can I control in this new reality, and what do I have to let go of?
And crucially, this means that most goals will require modification, not total abandonment.
Exactly. You might have planned to write for an hour a day, but if you're in the middle of a crisis, maybe 5 focused minutes is the new, realistic, and highly successful goal. That tiny act is still progress. It keeps the chain from breaking.
It also means understanding that sometimes the failure is actually feedback. It might be asking you to pivot to a gentler approach, or to realize something deeper about your priorities in that moment.
This whole approach lines up perfectly with the philosophy of the growth mindset, which was popularized by Dr. Carol Dweck. And we should probably dig into the nuance of this, because just saying have a growth mindset isn't all that helpful.
For sure. So a growth mindset is the belief that your abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Let's contrast the inner monologue of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset when facing a setback.
Okay. The fixed mindset voice says, I failed that exam, therefore I am a failure, and I should probably just quit because I obviously don't have the natural talent for this. That voice just shuts down all future effort.
And the growth mindset voice.
The growth mindset voice says, I failed that exam. This is critical information. It's telling me my current study strategy isn't working. I can use this information to adjust my approach and try again.
That shift in perspective is it's monumental. When you see a setback as a data point, you support lifelong fulfillment. You're not just trying to check a box. You're cultivating a relationship with learning and iteration. That fuels a motivation that isn't dependent on immediate success.
Which brings us to the ultimate reward of all this work. The reward isn't just a completed to-do list. It's a profoundly transformed way of living. Achieving even one key goal creates this powerful exponential ripple effect that touches every other part of your life.
It's like an ecosystem of well-being. Let's get into some specific examples of this ripple effect to show how the returns compound.
Okay, let's take a simple goal, improving your sleep hygiene. The ripple effect starts right away. Better sleep gives you more energy and patience in your relationships. That's ripple 1.
That improved patience reduces stress, which lets you focus more deeply at work. Ripple 2.
That increased cognitive performance leads to faster learning and more confidence, which unlocks more professional growth. Ripple 3. One small, consistent change shifts the entire tapestry of your life.
So it encourages you to actively look for those compounding returns as you go.
And to sustain this over the long term, we have to stop seeing our daily routines as just chores. We need to turn them into what the material calls sacred rituals, moments that anchor and inspire you.
Routine is ritual. That sounds a bit philosophical, but what's the practical daily application?
The ritual is defined by intention, not by the amount of time. It's about dedicating even 5 minutes a day to your goal-aligned activities and making them non-negotiable anchors. A morning meditation, an evening journaling session, a weekly walk just for strategic thinking. These small intentional acts steady your motivation and keep you aligned with your deeper purpose.
Motivation thrives on stories, so let's make these concepts really concrete with the 3 vignettes from our research. First up is Amir's leap.
Right. Amir was an accountant, very good at his job, but he had this quiet dream of designing video games. He felt completely overwhelmed by the learning curve, the sheer scope of it all. So his tiny resolution was to just spend 10 minutes a day learning one specific game design tutorial.
And the lesson here is the power of that infinitesimal start. That tiny commitment removed the fear. By March, 10 minutes felt too short, so it grew to an hour. By June, he was active in an online community. A year later, he had a playable demo.
Amir's story confirms it. Start tiny, be ruthlessly consistent, and don't be afraid to be a beginner at something you love.
Okay, next is Sophia's strength. This one illustrates the power of redefining the why, the relevance. Sophia had the same failed resolution every January. Lose weight. It always felt like punishment, and it always failed by February.
For 2026, she had a breakthrough. She changed her goal to move my body for energy and joy.
And that simple reframe changed everything for her. Joy became the motivator, not self-criticism. She stopped focusing on the scale, joined a dance class, and started cooking new, vibrant recipes just for fun.
And she ended up healthier and happier, almost accidentally achieving her original goal without focusing on it at all. When your why is rooted in joy and self-care, not discipline, motivation lasts.
And finally, Deshaun's Dare, which is all about correcting our modern obsession with hustle culture. Sean was a successful young professional, but he was completely burning out from working these relentless 80-hour weeks.
So his radical resolution for 2026 was to intentionally learn how to rest and set boundaries.
It's such a powerful and counterintuitive goal. He literally scheduled time off in his calendar, set firm boundaries around work email after 6 p.m., and started a daily meditation practice.
And the surprising result wasn't a career slowdown. It was greater focus, better relationships with his team, and a surge in creativity that actually led to a big promotion. The lesson is that intentional rest isn't the reward for work. It's the essential fuel for all effective, high-quality work.
Those 3 stories just perfectly encapsulate the core strategies: tiny actions, a shift in identity, and prioritizing restoration. So as we look ahead at the whole year, what are those final, enduring strategies for the long game?
First, review regularly. Goals die when they're not actively revisited. Set those non-negotiable monthly or quarterly checkpoints. Ask yourself, what's working? What needs to be adjusted? Treat your goals like living, adaptable documents.
Second, visualize success. This is a powerful technique used by elite athletes. Spend real time imagining what success looks, sounds, and feels like. If you're writing a book, visualize holding the finished copy, feeling the weight of it, seeing it on a shelf.
That emotional vibrancy connects the small, maybe tedious step you have to take today with the huge, satisfying outcome down the road. It bridges the motivational gap you'll inevitably hit in the middle of the year.
And finally, the single most critical element that underpins everything. Be kind to yourself. The internal voice you use matters more than any app or tracker. You have to ask yourself, are you your own harshest critic, or are you your biggest supporter?
Motivation is just deeper and more resilient when it's infused with kindness. When you falter, and you will because you're human, speak to yourself the way you would to a dear friend. Recommit from a place of love and understanding, not from fear or shame. That is the ultimate strategy for sustainability.
We've reached the end of this deep dive into setting powerful, sustainable goals for 2026. This year isn't just a date on a calendar, it's a personal declaration. It's you, standing at the threshold, deciding with intention who you are and who you want to become.
And remember that enduring motivation isn't some lightning bolt of inspiration. It's more like a quietly lit candle, fed intentionally by those small daily practices, conscious choices, and the support of the community around you. Embrace these new beginnings. Forgive any past stumbles, and greet each day of 2026 with curiosity and courage.
We really hope this discussion has given you, the listener, some profound clarity and a robust, actionable plan for the year ahead. A plan that can guide you past the guilt of prior attempts and into some genuine, transformative growth.
We want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to mull over as you begin to write your story for 2026. We've shown how achieving even one small, identity-based goal creates a powerful ripple effect across your entire life. So consider this. If you commit fully to just one small, identity-based action every single day this year, that 10 minutes of creative work, that movement 3 times a week, that 5 minutes of intentional rest, how drastically might your entire personal and professional life be transformed by this time next year?
Go write your story. We hope this deep dive into New Year 2026 new goals has provided you with clarity and a robust plan. If you found this discussion valuable, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.